Today is a very special day for SNL fans because today is the day the show first premiered. I think the movie's out now too. I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not. That's not what this video is about. I could have made any other video. I could have revisited my very first SNL video where I talked about how Nirvana has a banned episode because of Chris and Dave smacking tongues, getting each other's saliva. I could have talked about all the musicians that have gotten banned from SNL. Hell, I could have even talked about who my favorite hosts are and who my favorite SNL cast members are.
Mr. John in Knoxville?
But that's not what this video is about. No. You see, my dear friends, before the Muppet Show came to existence, we only had Sam and Friends and Sesame Street. Sam and Friends is a lot older because it's a Jim Henson show that came out in 1955 and ended in 1961. It's like the oldest Muppet Show. We're not talking about Sam and Friends just yet. And we're not talking about the Muppet Show because, what am I supposed to make a video about it for? I've already done some Muppet videos. And we're not talking about Sesame Street either because, if we did, I'd be going on a whole tangent about how Big Bird has a relative from every country. Every country that airs Sesame Street has a Big Bird, and he's got a different name, and Big Bird's apparently related to all those Big Birds. Before Muppet Show and during Sesame Street, Jim Henson had a puppet show on SNL. You wouldn't really believe it if you never saw SNL, never binged all of SNL. SNL's been going on since 1975. It's very old. It's kind of like the shit you'd see on TV, along with Divorce Court and Jerry Springer. Not really. I take it back. I'm sorry. You'd see SNL probably along with Law and Order is what I'm trying to say. But yes, for a while, Jim Henson was technically part of the SNL cast. You can see him in the biopic saying that someone hung a Muppet in his dressing room. Great stuff, guys. Thank you. Thank you all. Gilda, Dan, John, Lorne Michaels, even you, Chevy. Thank you guys. You guys were so nice.
The writers on the 17th floor tied a belt around Big Bird's neck and hung him from my dressing room door.
But it was because of Land of Gork that we even got the Muppet Show. So in a way, even though this show does kind of suck, no offense, Jim, or your kids if they watch this, I'm so sorry, guys. But this technically was the beginning of seeing how Jim Henson's creative mind worked. I look at this and I think of all the other stuff he's done. I have not gotten into Labyrinth yet. I was supposed to review that movie with my friend Luke. Obviously, things happen, and also, I've never seen Dark Crystal. It recently got added to Tubi along with Labyrinth. I love Labyrinth. I don't know what Jim smoked when he made Labyrinth, but I don't even know what he was on when he made the Dark Crystal, so who am I to judge? But I've been talking for way too long. Let's just get into the video. This is the history of the Land of Gork, Jim Henson's SNL show. Well, actually, it's not a show, it's an SNL skit. Shut up! The Land of Gork was a reoccurring adult puppetry skit that appeared in the first season of SNL, featuring Jim Henson's Muppets. His characters appeared regularly on the late-night comedy television program. After Sesame Street, he feared he'd become typecasted into working on children's TV shows, so his talent agent Bernie Brillstein, who also presented Gilda Radner, Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, and Lorne Michaels, helped him transition into Saturday Night Live. The premise of the Land of Gork featured Muppet characters who were members of royal family in a faraway local. They behaved boorishly and made frequent references to drug abuse, sexual activity, and consumption of alcohol. Characters included King Plubis, Queen Petua, their son Whis, and the servants Scrut and Voss. These characters often consulted their mighty oracle, Feyrog, for advice. The writers of SNL clashed with Henson's vision for the program. I'm not even going to name these writers, but they often tried to avoid writing the weekly sketches. Henson felt that they were trying to write for situational comedy rather than staying within his intended story. Frank Oz eventually agreed that the partnership between Henson's team and the show's writers was imperfect, and was thankful that they moved on to The Muppet Show. Commentators agreed the reception for The Land of Gork was universally negative. The AV Club said that it was an in-joke that nobody wanted to keep the sketches on Saturday Night Live. San Francisco Chronicle called the characters the opposite of Kermit the Frog and compared them to trolls. DVD Talk called the feature the worst mistake in the first season of SNL. Academic Michael J. Bernstein wrote in his essay The Muppetry of Nightmares that the idea failed because the characters were irredeemable and unfunny. Nonetheless, The Land of Gork did have a significant impact on later Jim Henson projects like the movie Dark Crystals and the TV show Dinosaurs. I forgot that he made that. I forgot about that. Well, I mean, technically, he didn't make it. When did he die? Oh, in 1990. Yeah, so he didn't make Dinosaurs, but like that's still his creation though. So thank you, Jim. So what is the premise for this show? Well, The Land of Gork takes place in a world far away from contemporaneous society. I can read, I swear. The characters live in a fictional swamp-like planet in a fantasy genre. The set includes volcanoes and prehistoric themes. The environment is dismal and the puppets have grotesque physical appearances. The creatures have unique cultural identities and a sense of loyalty towards their inherent traditional practices. The main characters comprise of a royal family, which I mentioned before, so I don't have to say it again. But there's also a male servant, and okay, I already mentioned these, and the rock prophet. So, Scred acts like a fervent supporter of the dim-witted king, while Voss displays flirtatious qualities. Well, it is a female servant, so. Yeah. The Land of Gork segments deal with adult themes. Characters use euphemisms to refer to their sex drives, and often consume alcohol. They often contradict each other and act obnoxiously and
lasciviously.
Oh, lasciviously. Anyways, they grapple with adult issues including death, and alcoholism. Listen, gotta get around this somehow. Wow. Donut and banana. I am so sorry. Early in his career, Jim Henson's work was aimed at mature audiences. In the show that I mentioned before, Sam and Friends, it was designed for young adults, which I'm gonna get into Sam and Friends in another video, the next video. Not the next video, but it's coming. During this period, his characters often appeared on late-night comedy television programs like the Jimmy Dean Show and the Ed Sullivan Show. Throughout the 1960s, Jim used his puppets for profane, irreverent comedy. These early Henson creations made references to substance abuse and, The AV Club said that Jim Henson was probably influenced by the work of Ralph Bakshi, who was also active during the 1960s. He was an animator, filmmaker, and painter. What did he make? I don't know. Jim Henson originally conceived of his Muppets as characters aimed at an adult audience. He was disappointed that the popularity of the characters that appeared in Sesame Street, including Big Red and Bert and Ernie, had solidified a public perception of his puppetry was solely intended for educating children. And he was worried that he would be stuck forever working on children television series. He felt that his Muppet characters should be able to be appreciated by individuals of any maturity level. He's making a good point. Jim told the Saturday Evening Post he had constantly dealt with others looking down upon the idea of puppet performance. He envied ventriloquist Edgar Bergen for his ability to appear to a mature audience. Jim said he wanted to work on a program that was broadcast during the peak adult viewing time, and said he had prior difficulty persuading the major television networks to create a puppet program for mature audiences. Lucky for Jim, though, he had an agent named Bernie Brillstein, who helped him move away from working solely on productions for children. When Jim Henson decided to engage Brillstein as his talent agent, Henson was not well known within the industry. Bernie Brillstein was an asset to Jim Henson. His clients include the SNL executive producer Lorne Michaels and his three cast members, Gilda Radner, Dan Aykroyd, and John Belushi. Henson wanted Muppets to incorporate into SNL as a way to expunge the popular view his characters were only for young audiences. With the help of his best friend Frank Oz, Henson generated the Land of Gork characters for use on SNL. His new characters were featured on the television program's very first season, which today's the anniversary of. Henson designed the conceptual framework of the Land of Gork characters to be eccentric. And we're going to get into the design right now. The designs for the characters and associated puppets in the Land of Gork were created by Michael K. Frith and Jim Henson. The characters were specifically created for SNL and were not previously used in the Henson puppet universe. Their appearance was intended to be more realistic than other previous puppet creations. For example, Jim Henson used glass eyes in the models for the first time, and the mighty Favog character was co-designed by Frith and Henson. King Plubis and Scred were designed by Frith, and Jerry Jewell and Jerry Nelson assisted with the production of the Muppets during the program. You see, now we're going to get into the contract and marketing. NBC asked SNL's producer Lorne Michaels to add the Land of Gork to the program to lighten its overall tone. In its initial contract for SNL Live, or just SNL, I don't know why I said SNL Live, SNL Live, NBC required producer Lorne Michaels to include short films by comedian Albert Brooks and Jim Henson and the Muppets. Michaels said that he was pleased to be working with Henson on his new show. I'd always liked and been a fan of the Muppets and Jim's work. He said he thought Henson's idea could support a weekly routine on the program. Henson initially called the segment Muppet Night Creatures before settling on its final name. Jim Henson and the Muppets were marketed as a regular feature of SNL before its first episode was hosted by George Carlin. Of course, not everything was all sunshine and rainbows. You see, because of regulations imposed by the WGA, or the Writers Guild of America, only those employed as writers for SNL were allowed to write sketches for the program. Jim and his puppeteers merely performed the scripts for the segments, and they weren't involved in the writing process. Saturday Night Live cast members did not enjoy working with these segments. Writing assignments for the Land of Gork sketches were given to SNL staff as a penalty for being the least liked among the production team. Writers generally regarded the routines as childish. The writing staff of SNL and Henson's team did share some qualities, though. Each group formed a separate social clique. Yeah, that's the word, I guess. And were independently opinionated and creative. They differed in age, experience, and lifestyle. Producer Lorne Michaels was 31 in 1975, and Jim Henson was nearly 40 years old. And many of the writers were 20, so there is that. Most of the writers were single, and Jim was married and had 5 kids! 5 kids! Writer Michael O'Donoghue said, "I don't write for felt." In a 1977 interview for Playboy, Donahue called the Land of Gork characters mucking Fuppets. Oh my god, that's where that comes from. And little hairy face cloud. Okay, don't go too far, bitch. Jeez. SNL writer Alan Zwiebel said the writers drew stars to decide who would draft that week's Muppet routine. Zwiebel said that in addition to himself, other writers who disliked working on the script for the Land of Gork included O'Donoghue, Al Franken, and Tom Davis. Zwiebel had a personal disagreement with Henson, who disapproved a few storylines, and Jim's associate Jerry Jewell said that John Belushi hated having the Muppets on the show. Jewell said they went through virtually every writer on the program trying to find one who would write sketches both parties could agree with. Michaels said that the Land of Gork characters had been created without a set of rules or boundaries to govern the storylines. He said he felt his writing staff would have been able to work more effectively if there had been more guidelines on the characters' behavior and function. Henson said he felt the type of humor being written for the show was tedious and unimaginative. Jim Henson said that his ideas did not mesh well with the writers. He said his creative team did not form a bond with the writing staff, which, in his opinion, embraced a darkly irritating form of comedy. Frank Oz said that the Land of Gork experiment had its positives and its negatives. Frank said he thought the routine was not a good fit for SNL, and that the cartoon-style humor of their characters did not work well with the comedy of SNL, much of which was initially derived from the Second City environment. That's another series. I don't really want to get into that one. Oz said he generally enjoyed working on SNL and witnessing the skilled performers such as Andy Kaufman, Albert Brooks, John Belushi, Chevy Chase, and Dan Aykroyd. The conflicts between Henson and the SNL writers proving insurmountable. The Land of Gork segments were discontinued from production with the agreement of all parties. By the time Lorne Michaels asked one of his producers, "How do you find the Muppets?" Henson's staff had already begun to focus on the production of The Muppet Show in London. Frank Oz was thankful for the move. The Muppet Show, which was launched in 1976, featured new characters that were not previously seen on SNL. Henson later confirmed that part of the reason he decided to stop producing the segments was to focus on The Muppet Show. In his essay, Muppetry of Nightmares, Michael J. Bernstein wrote that the Land of Gork routines exemplified how disgustingly puppets could act and illustrated the connection between the uncanny and odd behavior. He commented on the value of Henson's contributions to SNL within the artist's larger corpus of work, and said none of Henson's other creations were as profane or grotesque. Bernstein said these qualities made the characters a crucial part of the Muppet timeline. The timeline, I guess, would be Sam and Friends, Land of Gork. No, Sam and Friends, Sesame Street, Land of Gork, and then Muppet Show. Bernstein said audiences contemporaneous with the first season of SNL were not ready for such characters. He said the Land of Gork characters behaved so uncannily that audiences did not relate to them because they did not foresee hideous puppets behaving in such a mature manner. Bernstein said this was the reason the characters' pithy one-liner jokes succeeded. According to Ben Underwood, the characters that appeared in the Land of Gork were called Muppets by Henson and his crew, but diverged significantly from his other creations within the Muppet universe. Underwood said they exhibit a dichotomy of sweet and affectionate behavior while at the same time being disgusting. Jason Segel, writer and star of the 2011 Muppet film, I didn't even know he wrote that movie. Wait, what? He likened Jim's efforts with the Land of Gork to the early struggles by Apple Inc. co-founder Steve Jobs with his burgeoning new company in its early years. Segel said that the format did not work with Saturday Night Live because of its edgier tone. They had created a new world of sort of adult, darker Muppets to fit in with SNL, and it didn't quite work. I was originally going to end this video by reading the legacy and the critical reception, but I don't really think there's anything else to say. I think I'm done for now. So I think I managed to release this before the day ends or whatever, because usually when I make a video about a show on their anniversary, I miss it. So hopefully I didn't. But thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Do all the YouTube things. I will see you in my next 2 Muppet videos. And bye.